apparently, because of the 3-inch lift I have, there's some clearance issues between the sway bar and the actual front coil spring that's in here. I never noticed it before until I heard guys talking about it, and there you go, between the sway bar and the actual coil is only half an inch. And by doing this right here, this sway bar, it lowers it and brings it forward, and it should open up this gap here to 1 inch. So we'll go ahead and get this lowered and spaced out. That'll be today's video. So first I have to go ahead and take off my front rock shield here, give myself some room and some access to these bolts and everything else, plenty of room. And while I'm in there, because I don't like to do things over and over again, I'm going to replace these front bushings now that are rubber with some polyurethane. So this is the kit here. I got it from Supreme Suspensions. I'll go ahead and put a link up there. But you get a billet aluminum spacer, which actually moves it from there to here forward, and at the same time that'll pull it away from that spring. These are my polyurethane bushings to go ahead and replace. No, I didn't pick blue, they just happen to be blue. I've got some ones on order for the rear I'll replace, and those are yellow. No choice there. So AC Delco made these. There's the part number right there. And there's other kits out there that are less expensive. This comes with all the hardware, hardened bolts, washers, all that neat stuff, which are, you can see there's no magnetic properties to that hardware there, so those are stainless, which is nice. Don't have to worry about those rusting out. And before I put this around those bars, I'm going to use some high temperature Teflon lubricant. No, this did not come with it. You can go and buy this. I just happen to have this left over from another kit from who knows where the heck I got it from, but I save all this stuff. So I actually cracked the seal on this today and used some of it, reseal it and stuff, so I can use it for the yellow spacers that I'll get for the back that have a smaller hole, and because the diameter of the rear sway bar is smaller. So that's what I'll be using. Apparently it's 14 millimeter for those bolts that are on there now holding on the actual bushings. So let's go ahead and get the front rock guard out of the way, and let's go ahead and start taking off the brackets, the old bushings, so I can get this new stuff on. Of course, like everything, I'll be using some Loctite, probably some higher strength, and that way once I put these in and torque them to 30 foot-pounds, that's the torque specs that are in the manual, and it's also what they mention here, 30 foot-pounds, so it matches. That way I don't have to worry about them coming loose. And with these new polyurethane bushings, I'll probably never have to replace those, at least for another 20 years. Okay, here's the driver's side sway bar. Front of the vehicle is that way. And yep, it is a size 14. I'll go ahead and get that off. Both sides, lower the sway bar. And we'll just kind of take it from there, along with the other side here. That'll come down also. Not sure what this metal deal is here, but we'll get it sorted out once I pull this off. Okay, so that's where it came down. I brought it down and just let it rest gently on these rods right here on each side. I was afraid this was a bushing that went all the way through. I was thinking, oh no, this is something totally different. But it's basically where your bushing, either rubber or polyurethane, rests up against. It's like a bushing stop. And here's the old holes here. And again, I said it'll be shifted forward by the time we lower this. Coming around through the other side, same thing on this side. So now I'll just compare the old bushings along with the hardware. And then of course we're going to be using Loctite when we put this on, because I don't think there'll be any reason in the near future to be replacing this stuff. And we'll go ahead and get the spacers on first. We'll get those torqued, and then we'll go ahead and get the sway bar back into position. Okay, again, here's the old bushing. It kind of feels like it's polyurethane. It doesn't really feel like rubber. However, that hole is kind of got an oval shape going on, where the newer one is perfectly round, and it sits a little higher, which is good, because as I tighten this down, it's going to compress it and make it even tighter. So I'm glad I went with these. And it never hurts anyway. Whenever you have something apart, unless you really enjoy taking things apart over and over again, it doesn't hurt to replace this. So I just need to get some grease inside here, so when I put it in, there's no squeaking. And these are the bolts that came off. They fit perfectly with this kit, so I'm going to use these to attach the spacers to the actual frame. And then these are the bolts here that go into here, and that's for attaching basically this, something like this. Actually, it'll sit more like that. So this will be interesting. Alright, there's the bolts I'm going to use. They have a liberal amount of permanent lock thread. It says permanent, but you can go ahead and take it off. It's just a nice tight bond, so I don't have to mess around with anything vibrating loose down there, because you only torque all this stuff to 30 foot-pounds. Spacers here, bushings, one of the brackets, another bushing. So now we'll go ahead and crawl underneath and have a look. Alright, got this one started. Just need to tighten it down. If for some reason you forget what side is which, this won't fit here. It's too close to it, so the longer side goes toward the front of the vehicle. I'll tighten these down. I get them to 30 foot-pounds, and then we can go ahead and reattach the sway bar. Okay, there's the spacers. They torque down to 30 foot-pounds. Now, and you can see it is going to be slightly moved forward, which is going to pull it away from my coil. Alright, there's a test fit there, and there's the bushing, and you can see you have some play because of the actual pivoting arms that are on the other side. Those will be replaced soon enough when they come in the mail, just to make sure all the ball joints are nice and tight. They feel pretty good, but for the price, yeah, I might as well just replace all four. So you do have some play here. As long as you got your bushings up against that metal collar, you can go ahead and get this one centered up, get it started, and then come around here to the other side and get that one started also. Okay, for example, there's the right side. It's started. It's not really hard. You don't have to do a lot of compression, a lot of bench pressing, and none of that stuff. Just kind of push this in place, get this both bolts started, and then just kind of go back and forth as you tighten them. That way it tightens down at an even rate. It'll compress this, make it nice and tight. Then we'll go ahead and torque these for 30 foot-pounds. Come around to the other side, same thing on this side. The neat thing is, as you drop it and bring it forward, it brings this whole arm assembly down this way, more parallel with the ground, so it can actually be a bit more effective. Kind of like when we did the diff drop, it kind of made the axles in here straighter instead of at such an angle. Plus it keeps these boots from being pinched too far where they rub up against each other, and then of course they start to wear. I need to throw on some grease on this or something to get that surface rust to look a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get those tightened up and torqued on, and then we can go ahead and see the space in between the sway bar now and my coils. Alright, every kit is a little bit different. My kit just happened to come with bolts that have a 16mm head. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten those down, and again just kind of swap back and forth. I think my battery's going. I may have to change it. Okay, let's get those torqued down with the torque wrench. Alright, so that's the finished product on the driver's side. I still need to do the other side. Again, bushings right up against these collars. Got the bracket on, and we have some lubricant inside of this. I just happen to have some lithium high temperature stuff hanging around. And that side is all set. I just need to go ahead and do this side. Okay, and there's the right side there. So they're both done. The neat thing is, of course, these go pretty deep, and they have the Loctite that wants to actually hold the spacer on. The bolts that it came with has a lock washer, regular washer, and Loctite. Again, these are lubricated. Don't have to worry about this. It should be nice and tight. And if you look up in there between, right in this area right here, that's well over an inch. I'll measure it once I get out from underneath the vehicle, but that's a pretty good distance right there. I'm a lot happier with that. Alright, there you see there we now have 1 1/4 inch space between here and here, where before it was only that much. So this is a pretty good difference. At the same time, it lowers this, Makes it a bit more parallel to the ground, so it's a bit more effective. And then of course in here you can see the spacer and the new bushing and all that. There's also a slit in these bushings, and it's not a bad idea to have one facing one way and then one facing the other way. So this one faces backwards where the slit is. On the other side, that bushing, the slit is facing forward. And again, I never have to worry about this again. It'll be nice and tight. Next thing to replace will be these, I don't know, tie rod ends. Basically what connects the sway bar to the suspension itself. I'm going to replace these. They've just been in there for a while, and it doesn't hurt. I'm getting a set of 4 from Amazon, and I think that's going to run me, oh god, what is it, a whopping $59 plus tax, free shipping. So I'll get those replaced in the front and the back, and then I won't have to worry about any of this stuff up front. Axles were replaced not too long ago. I'd say back in, let's see here, 2014. Again, I was overseas, flying throughout the Middle East, and this was just sitting around, and needless to say, there was some hardening and a little bit of leakage, so these were replaced not too long ago. So I just need to go ahead and put the rock guard back on, and then clean up, and then that's it. Alright, these are the bolts that are holding on my rock guards. Again, you'll probably think, what the heck? Long story, I ended up putting in larger bolts, retapping out the captive nuts. This holds the front of my filament panel, and then of course these two are for the rear of the front rock guard. But this rust and stuff, I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is use a little acid brush here, and I have some grease down in this little container, brush it on so that when I put it back in, they'll basically have a little protection against future rust. Again, there's a lot of stuff you won't recognize. These were actually old motorcycle bolts, but they were longer than the factory ones, and that was because originally when I got my diff lowering kit, I didn't like the length of the bolts or what they were made out of, so I basically got these. They're stainless. I still put some grease on there, some 10mm head for the front, and of course you can see how the grease really helped clean up the rust and stuff, and will prevent it in the future. So there again on my FJ, it's a little bit different. This is the filler plate I made. I didn't like rocks and twigs and sticks having access to the radiators that are up in there. So this is something I made. It's actually covered on another video. And what I do is I actually start by tightening these up. First I start them all loose, tighten these up first, work my way back to these. That's the big bolts. There's a cross member that I drilled out and tapped out with new threads. And then I have the other one right up in there. That'll be the last one I tighten up, and that'll take care of this whole front end. Had it off so many times lately, I'm actually getting a lot better at it. Hey, once again, finished product. Got the rock guard on. This is all in, spacer. Got a nice big gap there. These are next. So I'll get this on YouTube, and a very happy holidays to you guys.